Why build a CV with me? Before getting into the video, I need you to understand how the recruitment process works in the job competitive market. 75% of the resumes are rejected by ATS. Do you know what ATS is? It's Applicant Tracking System. ATS removes almost 75% of the resumes out of the noise even before it reaches a human recruiter. So what happens to your CV? It doesn't get through, right? So here is why CV optimization is very crucial for you. It will increase your success to win a job or to be present in front of a human recruiter if you get past the ATS systems. So a CV optimization and ATS-friendly resume is essential to improve the chances of being successfully landing a job. Let me introduce myself. Hi, my name is Reshma. With almost 20 years of work experience in the industry, finding resources for projects, I actually perfected the method of getting a resource through an ATS system. I usually interview candidates for projects, and I always see that many candidates has the potential, but their CVs do not reflect the same at all. They do have the capabilities, they have the technical knowledge, but their CVs don't do it justice. So I started talking to the candidates and writing CVs for them. And guess what? It improved their winnability when it comes to the candidates being selected by the clients. So I started streamlining it because it was part of the job that I had to actually identify resources for my clients and help them hire on behalf of them. So I started streamlining, talking to the clients, identifying what each and every candidate's skill set is, and using that skill set to market their skill set to get a better salary and a better position with a client. Streamlined it, and it's been since a while. Now I'm doing it. So I started writing CVs to reflect their skills and abilities as is to the client. So I wouldn't usually puff up their skills. I would just write their skills as is, but in a sellable manner where it can be used by the clients. And guess what? Most of candidates that I put in front of the clients, they get through because it's not put too much, it's not put too less, it's just put the right way. So if you are capable of something, I would write that you're capable of something and this is how it is. Many a times, what many candidates do not understand is in the event of looking for a job, they're usually looking for something much higher than they're really capable of, and they tend to fail the interview and also lose the money that is on the table. Rather, I would usually recommend the candidates to put their skills as is and negotiate for the salaries because of the value you provide. Do not undersell yourself. At the same time, provide value for the money that is being paid to you. Why is CV optimization important? By strategically selecting and incorporating elements like relevant keywords into your resume, you can ensure that it aligns perfectly with your job requirement. CV optimization optimizes into tailoring the resume to showcase your skills, qualifications, and experiences effectively. Identify and incorporate these job applications as your keywords. First, when you get a job application or like a job description in your hand, you need to go through the job description and highlight all the key requirements that is mentioned on the job description itself. For example, they would say they're looking for communication skills. I want a particular language because I have a set of customers that, for example, in the UAE, they would usually look for somebody with Arabic speaking skills. Why? Because the clientele will be Arabic speaking. Despite of how much qualified you are and how much experience you align with the requirements in the job, you may not be qualified just because of the fact that you cannot speak the language and you do not understand them culturally. So identifying what is required from the job description is very crucial. Once you identify the job, usually when I go through a job description, I would usually underline the job requirements very clearly. So if they're looking for 5 years of experience, I would underline that. If they're looking for technical experience, I would underline that. If they're looking for a certification, I would underline that. All those keywords which would actually help you stand out, I would usually underline, and then I would reframe my resume in case I have that. Some of the very simple tips that you can actually incorporate. It's very simple, but you should be able to incorporate. One, please do not go in for Canva designs. Please do not go in for any resume templates that has pictures or a design on the background. Why? An OCR cannot read it, especially with the age-old HR ATS systems, which many companies have not upgraded from. They will not read these applications that you have put through with your name. So usually what happens is when you actually go in for such design templates, what happens is you see how they have a template with your name and key skills mentioned, and then they will have the name and the telephone number mentioned. Guess what? When the OCR reads, they will only read your experience, but they will not capture your name, they will not capture your telephone number, they will not capture your key information. So what's the whole point of sending other? Doesn't make sense, right? So all of this have to be in very simple font, in an organized template. Avoid using tables, any graphics, any complex formatting of any sort, like for alignment more than two, any check mark to identify. Avoid all of that. And save your file in a doc format or a PDF format. I would prefer doing it on a doc format because it's easier to read and it's much better. But if you do have an alignment or you do not know how to do it properly, then go for a PDF, but that's the second option, not the primary one. Now, when you also write a CV, many people forget to write what's the role they're looking for. So write the role on the top, right after your name, write the role you're looking for. So it can be account manager, it can be lead generation or growth specialist, or it can be principal engineer, senior system architect. You may be working in a particular role right now. That necessarily does not have to be the first title that you have to put in. You can put in something generic in a way that it can be picked up by any of the people within the industry. For example, if you are a solution architect and you can work on an ERP and you can also work on an AI, you can put it as solution architect. Go for the generic terminology. Don't go in for the specifics like the company gives you, but go in for what the industry standard is calling for. So it becomes easier for you to be searchable and to be resultant in the search selections. So in order for the information to be parsed, the resume have to be in a very simple format, like I explained earlier. It is the process which is being used by the ATS. So what is resume parsing? Resume parsing is a process used by ATS to extract information from a resume and organize it into a standard format. So for example, if you were to put something in Naukri Gulf, have you seen that when you actually upload your resume, it will go capture some information it will not? So that is basically what a resume parsing is. So it happens on Indeed, it happens on Monster, any job website, especially the ones that post vacancy. They would ask you for a PDF. They will extract the information and put it into a column and say each field carries this information. And sometimes you notice what you studied in college years will be actually the first one to reflect in your job title, and it's not relevant anymore. So that is what job parsing is. So in order for such kind of application to read, always keep the format quite simple and easy to read. For example, like keep the font like very minimal, like use Times or Time Romans or Arial, or very simple fonts. You can Google it and you'll find the kind of fonts which has been accepted by the system in order to read it. So you can use those fonts and format using that. Now, among Indian employers, the one thing that I have noticed is they prefer a certain format, which is very relevant to India. They would usually want your work experiences, your certificates, the logos on the top, so to say that you are certified in a certain thing, or the logo certification numbers and things like that. So use those information over there. Now in Gulf countries, they are not very particular about it. However, they are particular about the information, like how you would say, okay, what sort of visa and what nationality do you have, because they do have a nationality criteria when it comes to approving for visa, so they need to know that. So what nationality are you? And if you do carry your driver's license in case you need to drive from spot A to spot B. So those are the kind of relevant information. Do not include your parents' names, do not include your father's names, your mother's name, whether you're married or not, unless and until it will affect your paycheck. It's not relevant in an ATS based resume. Why? Because an ATS resume actually showcases your experiences, exposure, and your skill set. Those are the three things you need to be focused on, not on anything else. Now, if it is a male candidate, there are times the male candidates are usually paid higher than a female candidate, but they would also be having dependents dependent on them that is being paid or taken care of by the companies, especially in foreign countries. For example, usually a male candidate may be provided support for his family, like family tickets for his family, insurances for his family, visa support for his family, and things like that. In those conditions, asking whether you're married or not makes relevant. However, I would not put it on the first step. I would wait for the HR to come back and ask me those so that they can calculate the cost before they finalize the salary. So this can be one of your negotiation points instead of putting it on the resume and turning them off. So that's a good thing you can do. Now, the language have to be clear English. Do not put industry jargons. Many people do not understand it. Many recruiters do not understand it. Many systems do not understand it. What may be accepted as common jargon in IT could also be accepted in construction, but system don't understand the difference. So put a complete name to it and mention the industry you're looking for. When emphasizing your achievement and results, it is essential to make them easily recognizable to both the ATS and the recruiters. Ensure that the keywords that are incorporated are into a bullet points. Provide context for your accomplishments. In addition, if there is a visual representation that is required, like for example, like graphic designers, have a separate link for it. Keep your portfolio separate or keep it on a separate sheet so it can be read separately. When incorporating separate, for example, different industries, like what is relevant for IT may not be relevant for somewhere. For example, like P&P, you need to mention where have you applied your P&P experience. Like if you say, if you are an IT industry person, applying IT skill set using the P&P, right? It's quite different from what has been applied in the construction industries. Although it is the same methodology you're learning, the industry uses different things. So in order for the system to understand it, you need to be specific about these kind of information. So usually under the name, I would usually mention which industry are they actually targeting. So that would actually bring in more clarity to the system, which is reading the resume, and to the recruiters who is reading your resume. So it would actually help both the candidates to read your resume correctly and accurately as much as possible. So if all of this sounds very complicated for you, another alternative is you can always reach out to me, and you're more than welcome to do your resume by yourself using all these pointers. If that does not help and you need a professional and an expert support to do something like this, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. My telephone number will be available on the description, or you can reach out to me on my WhatsApp and book an appointment, and we will be able to see how we can go ahead and craft your resume that showcases your skill set. I hope this helps. Let me know and join me back for another episode.